The honorary degree will now be conferred. Mr. President, will you present the honorary degree candidate, Lynn Smith?
Mr. Chancellor, it is my privilege to introduce one of Canada's most distinguished jurists, the Honourable Madam Justice Lynn Smith. Today we pay tribute to Madam Justice Smith for her profound and lasting influence on issues of historical importance to law and society. Lynn Smith completed her LLB at the University of British Columbia and subsequently entered practice in Vancouver. An exceptionally able lawyer, she quickly became a partner with Shrum, Little and Hebden. This was but the first step in a series of remarkable transitions in an exemplary career. In 1981, she joined the Faculty of Law at UBC, where she published significant work in fields such as health law and human rights. With the enactment of the Charter of Rights, she co-founded the Women's Legal Education and Action Fund, which provided valuable leadership in the development of women's equality rights in the Canadian legal system. Upon assuming the office of Dean in 1991, she provided the impetus to establish a chair in feminist legal studies and a PhD program in law at the University of British Columbia. During her tenure there, peers described her as one of the 20 most powerful lawyers in Canada, a creative thinker and talented leader who helped to change the face of law and the legal profession in this country. To women entering what historically had been a male-dominated profession, Lynn Smith was an inspirational role model who nurtured the talent of others. The high point of her career to date took place with her elevation to the Supreme Court of British Columbia in 1998. To this, our province's highest bench, she brings not only vast knowledge and astute judgment, but also a deep sense of compassion for people. And although the demands of the bench are great, she continues to play a leading role in legal education, giving generously of her time and expertise to many institutions such as the Vancouver Foundation and the National Judicial Institute. Our legal system and our society have benefited immeasurably from Lynn Smith's talent and wisdom. For her service as a practitioner, professor, and judge, we are indeed grateful. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of this university, I ask that you now confer upon the Honourable Madam Justice Lynn Smith the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Lynn Smith, by virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of this university, I hereby admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Dr. Smith will be hooded by Professor Judith Osborne.
It is with pleasure that I now call on Dr. Lynn Smith for her convocation address.
Mr. Chancellor, Dr. Stevenson, Chief Justice, members of convocation, ladies and gentlemen, may I express my heartfelt thanks to Simon Fraser University for this high honor. I accept it only on behalf of a large number of other people with whom I have worked in the community, the legal profession, the academic world, and the judiciary, and with sincere thanks to them, to my friends, and most particularly to my family. My warm congratulations to you who are graduating today, and to your friends and families for the enormous achievement represented by your graduation today. Now, I had planned to resist the temptation to take advantage of this platform to offer advice, but I had to modify that plan when I learned that my own 2 daughters would be here in a seated and listening position. So in these brief remarks, I'm going to say why you should celebrate not only your achievement, but also your wisdom in having chosen to spend several years of your life in a university. A case can be made that you have invested wisely in terms of your prospective lifetime earnings and in terms of the prosperity of this province. But I'm not here to make that case today. Instead, I congratulate you on your astute decision to spend some time in an environment whose very reason for existence is the formulation, advancement, and careful investigation of ideas and their consequences. In the introduction to her book, Original Minds, Eleanor Wachtel, the Canadian writer and broadcaster, described some common characteristics of the people whom she had interviewed for the series. A widely diverse collection, including Amartya Sen, Noam Chomsky, Susan Sontag, George Steiner, Gloria Steinem, Oliver Sacks, Umberto Eco, and Desmond Tutu. She said that an original mind is above all a passionate mind, and that, I quote, "They all share the drive and commitment of the perpetually curious, a quality also found in many of the best writers of fiction. They have an appetite for the world and for the present moment, and this openness is combined with discipline, with conviction, and with a readiness to take risks." The people in Wachtel's book also share another characteristic, an interest in reaching a wide audience, in making a difference in the world. One way, not the only way, to make a difference in the world is through the advancement of ideas. Goethe said, "Daring ideas are like chessmen moved forward. They may be beaten, but they can start a winning game." Many people associated with Simon Fraser University have advanced daring ideas. I'm going to use as examples 2 of them whom I have had the privilege to know. One was Margaret Benston, a Simon Fraser University faculty member from the early 1970s until her untimely death in 1991. Throughout her career, Margaret Benston put forward important ideas about women's work. She was one of the first to argue that work in the home is productive work, and that since the majority of work in the home was, and still is, done by women, the result of ignoring work in the home in our economic analysis is to make women's labor invisible, and thereby to make women appear parasitical. The second is Joel Bakken, a 1981 BA psychology graduate of Simon Fraser University. His current book and film, The Corporation, advanced the idea that because the legal mandate of corporations is to pursue, without exception, their own self-interest, the corporation as an institution has become dysfunctional from the perspective of society as a whole. He argues that, and I quote, "The corporation and its underlying ideology are animated by a narrow conception of human nature that is too distorted and too uninspiring to have lasting purchase on our political imagination." I will draw a third example from the work of Leaf in constitutional litigation. A flaw in the classic approach to legal equality rights had become evident by the early 1980s. That approach asked only whether people who were alike were treated the same under the law. Thus, for example, an unemployment insurance benefit system that excluded pregnant women from regular benefits did not infringe the equality guarantees as classically understood because all pregnant persons were treated the same. Leaf advanced the idea that the classic approach was flawed because it begged the question and because it failed to promote equality in substance. I think it is fair to say that the three ideas I've just described are daring ones. Housework should be counted as productive labor. The legal construct of corporate personality has had unintended consequences, and its contours should be reconsidered. Equality should be a substantive goal, not a formal one. My objective is not to advocate for any of those ideas. All three represent positions in different long-term dialogues within our society. They may or may not gain sway, and if they do, they may or may not result in a better world. I do wish to observe that without the university environment, it is highly unlikely that any of those ideas would have emerged. On the other hand, none of them was the immediate product of the university world. None was a dissertation topic or what might be called tenure-driven scholarship. One of the things I am trying to say here is that daring ideas are not necessarily the product of the rare genius or the rarefied climate. They can come from any of us, wherever we may be. Language exerts hidden power, like a moon on the tides, said Rita Mae Brown, using a lovely metaphor. There are many competing metaphors for the university: repository of knowledge, economic engine, job ticket dispenser, ivory tower, hothouse. Those are some of the structural, mechanical, or inanimate ones. Here's another: animating spirit. You have had the chance during your time here in the university to engage with ideas and to see the difference people with ideas can make in the world. I think that we all have original minds and that we all have the capacity to make a difference in the world for the better or for the worse. No matter what you do next, whether it's to pursue further studies, to travel, to begin a career or profession, the animating spirit of the university, the urge toward creative, rigorous, thoughtful inquiry will remain with you, and you are free to draw upon it wherever you go. Do not be afraid to do so. Again, my very warmest congratulations to all of you and your families, and best wishes for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.